Hello everybody, the Rapple here, and today we're gonna be doing a tier list for Age of Mythology Retold, specifically for the Wrath of the Gods tournament that has recently ended. So, first I would like to mention that I don't believe there are any bad gods at the game at the moment. I believe game has only very few imbalances, and that's actually an amazing sign. I believe the game has potential, I believe the game has future. So I'm not gonna be playing with D or B nor C tier. So basically I'm gonna be doing A plus, S and S tier. Because as I said, I don't really think there are any bad gods at the moment. They're only bad matchups. So let's begin. First on S tier I would really like to put first Ra, and then following we have Isis. So these are the most banned civilizations, usually in tournaments, because they only have few little bad matchups or map spawns that do not benefit them at all. Uh, for me, people have actually figured out how to play Ra. Ra was one of the worst gods in the game when the game was released. So I believe now, actually, especially after the buffs Ra received, I believe Ra is in amazing position. And if it was like 2 weeks ago, I would probably put Isis in front. But seeing how well Ra did in the tournament, in this tournament, I'm gonna be having Ra as the best god right now, following with Isis. Moving on, also on S tier, I would like to put Gaia, because Gaia does very well against most of the gods, and in my opinion, Norse is one of those civs that are going to do well most likely against Gaia. So Gaia doesn't have too many counters, and Gaia does extremely well against Egyptians. Also having Implode available, a god power that in the recent patches you can no longer dodge, so it's guaranteed that you're gonna be losing your entire army to an Implode. So that's what buffed Gaia so hard recently, and I believe Gaia deserves to be the third best god from this tournament. So from here we're gonna be moving to S tier, and here I would like to continue with Kronos. So the reason I put Kronos first is because Kronos is very simple to play. Kronos is very easy to play, to be honest, and Kronos in the Legacy, in the old game, was more like a one-trick pony god, the type of god that you would only rush or you would only use on water maps to go for an Olympus at a very early minute mark. But now on Retold, Kronos is actually a boom god. Kronos is the type of god to grab the fastest town center in the game. If you do your build correctly, you can grab a town center in 18 seconds as Kronos, which is insane. So when it comes to booming, Kronos is one of the best gods in the game, and we have seen he did very well in this tournament. He deserves to be first on the S tier. Following up, I would really like to put Loki. The reason I put Loki second is the main bonus that he has, which is the plus 25% counter damage his human soldiers have. That's extremely strong, and when you get population, when you get more and more units out as Loki, that's when he becomes stronger and stronger, because that bonus starts paying off way too much. So it is very unlikely to lose a fight, a full population fight, when you play Loki. And we have seen that many times in the tournament, and Loki has plenty of strategies available for him, like the mass Herser strategy, the myth unit strategy, the counter system strategy, where you try to train as many counter units as possible and micro at your best, because that's what Loki is good at. Also, Loki basically counters all three Greek gods in my opinion, so he deserves to be after Kronos. Moving over the next god, I would like to put Set after Loki. So even though Set counters Loki, Loki struggles a lot against Set, I still believe Loki is slightly better because Loki wins all the Greeks. Set might find himself in trouble sometimes against Poseidon, as well as Hades. Or even against Zeus. If Zeus manages to find the priest very early on and bolts it, you're not going to have any wild animals for your early game when you play Set. So I believe that's where Set deserves to be, after Kronos and Loki. Next god, I would like to put probably... Thinking about it, I think Thor should really be over there. I thought Thor is close to Loki, because with Thor, having actually the Dwarven gold mine for late game, you will never get gold starved when you play Thor. If you play well with Thor, it is very unlikely to get gold starved actually. Because you can recast your Dwarven gold mine, you start with the armory build, you start with 4 extra villagers, your opponent has to make something happen when he's against Thor. That's the issue. So that's what makes Thor so powerful, that if your opponent fails to make a move, then you will most likely win the game as Thor, and if you play properly, your opponent will never ever manage to get a gold starve on you. Thor also does a little bit better than Loki against Set, but still, in my opinion, Set should win against Loki and Thor because of gadgets, because of the classical fight, shifting sense, you can dodge flaming weapons with shifting sense, vision, all of this type of stuff. So I'm gonna put Thor just after Loki and Set. Then again, I would also like to place on the S tier, I would like to place first Hades actually, and then Zeus. So here's why. Hades is overall better against Greeks, and Hades does better against... actually, Hades does better than Zeus on land maps. So I'm gonna be putting Hades first and then Zeus. Because yes, Hades, by grabbing Vaults of Erebus, you have a gold income, a passive gold income of worth of 2 villagers basically, grabbing those Vaults of Erebus. So with Thor, it's like you start with +4 villager lead, but with Hades with 2. So that's your great advantage, especially when it comes to classical fighting. So overall, Hades also has a better late game than Zeus, so I believe Hades deserves to be there. And the reason I'm actually putting Zeus right after, and I believe Zeus is somewhat strong, is because of water maps. Zeus is by far the strongest god on water maps, because if we look over those games from Wrath of the Gods, nearly every Kerlagar game was a Zeus win. Nearly every Kerlagar game. Kerlagar is that water map where you can actually walk on water and destroy docks. And because Zeus has those fast hoplites that also do bonus damage against buildings, he also has a bolt. So strategy you could do is like make a second Minotaur, bolt an enemy hero, spam out those hoplites, and we didn't really see anybody defending against this type of pressure in the tournament. So for me, Zeus is like one of the best, if not the best, gods on water maps. He has other bonuses that apply to it, like the extra favor gathering rate, that you can spam out Skyla and take the water for you. Plenty of good things for Zeus. But just because Hades does better on the rest of the maps, I'm just putting Hades first and then Zeus. Now moving over to A+. Here's how I would like to make it. I will probably put Uranus first. Uranus to me sometimes feels like it was the opposite in the past, but to me, Uranus feels like a weaker version of Kronos and Gaia, and I'll say why. If it wasn't for Implode, Uranus would be actually better than Kronos and Gaia, especially with Theia and Condarius and the Sky Passages, if you play very well with them, and then the infantry speed, and as well as Shockwave is very useful in the early game. But then, since they buffed Implode like that, where your army can no longer escape from Implode, I believe Gaia and Kronos became much stronger than Uranus. So I think Uranus has to be here, because basically Uranus will most likely lose to Ra, will lose to Isis, will lose to Loki, will lose to Set, as well as Thor, And it could be maybe equal against Zeus. So I think Uranus has to be on A+. Wondering if any buffs will... if Uranus will receive any buffs in the next patches. We will see about that. And then later on, I would like to put Poseidon after Uranus. I believe Poseidon should lose to Gaia, should lose to Isis, should lose maybe... I think Poseidon is one of the few gods that can actually do very well against Ra. So as I said, there is no such thing as a bad god in the game. The game is very balanced in my opinion. There are only few imbalances. There are still bad matchups, but I believe the game is at its best right now and it can even be better later on. So even though Poseidon is rated a little bit low for me, I think he can do very well against Ra when it comes to Earthquake and stuff like that, because Ra builds the monuments around his base, in his base. With an Earthquake, using Poseidon's ability is basically to be able to do timing attacks and raiding, and you have a better economy with Poseidon than Hades and Zeus. So you get the age ups faster as Poseidon, and a very fast Earthquake can screw up Ra long time, because Ra will lose all of the monuments, and Ra is about monuments, farms, the main town center, the main empowerment, and Ra loses all of this stuff in a matter of seconds against Earthquake. But then again, overall Poseidon will lose to Loki, will lose to Isis, Poseidon will most likely lose to Thor, and I think it's balanced against Hades and Zeus. Maybe Poseidon has a slight advantage against Hades and Zeus, but overall will most likely lose to the rest of the gods in this list, especially Gaia. Gaia is a hard counter to Poseidon. Last, I'd like to put Odin, one of my favorite gods. I was really sad actually he was nerfed like that. Some people might disagree with me. Then again, I'm not saying Odin is a bad god, that's why I'm putting him on A+ tier. As I said, all gods are strong in their unique way, which is a very good sign for the game, and we love that. But I believe Odin cannot match Isis. Odin cannot match Gaia's economy unless you manage to get a second town center and defend it, the way I played in the tournament. Odin will lose to Ra. Odin has great chances against Kronos with a Njordras if Kronos tries to boom. Odin will beat Loki on a normal open high hand map, but Odin will then again lose to Set, Odin will lose to Thor. Odin has great chances against Hades, but again, if Hades doesn't receive any damage, it's pretty hard for Odin to win, especially at the heroic age, when ballistics and stronger myth units start kicking in. Odin and Zeus, some people might disagree with me, but I believe Zeus does well against Odin. It didn't do well. Zeus didn't do well against Odin at the release. At the release, Odin was probably the strongest god in the game, no doubt about that. But then after all of those nerfs, and I believe after people figured out the game, another reason Odin was so strong at the release, I never doubted that. I never denied that Odin wasn't the best god at release. But another reason that Odin is one of the weakest gods right now is because people figured out how to play. Odin was a very easy god to play, one of the easiest gods to play. That's why he was picked so many times at release. But now people that figured out the rest of the gods, people figured out the meta, people started recognizing that Odin is very predictable. They started playing around what they were expecting to see. They started countering what Odin had, and then Odin got nerfed really hard, and I believe he's on A+ tier. Still not a bad god. Odin is a very good god, don't get me wrong. And as I said, there is no bad god in the game. Every god has their strengths in a very unique way, and that's what I really love about Age of Mythology Retold. Last, about Freyr, putting Freyr last. It's probably because people again figured out how to play against Freyr. Freyr is still a strong god, but was even stronger at the release because people had to play against strategies they have never seen in their lives. But after seeing what Freyr is capable of, after realizing its strengths, people again started playing around it and they found ways to abuse against Freyr, and now they all know they just have to like add some early pressure, grab a town center behind that, add more pressure, raid Freyr because Freyr is slow. Freyr doesn't have easy ways to heal his army, so you can always play the hit and run playstyle while booming, and pretty much you overwhelm, you outraid, and you out-eco Freyr. Freyr's winning condition is to manage to hold, manage to wall, manage to get a forward town center for an aggressive Gulanbersti, and then win with a late game, with a Vidar late game. So Freyr is also one of the hardest gods to play, so that's why I'm gonna be putting him last on the list. So this was the list for today, guys. Let me know if you enjoyed it. Let me know if you would like to see more videos like that. And of course, let me know in the comments what you think. If you have any opinions about any god, if anything should be changed, feel free to write a comment, give me a like, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I'll see you in the next video.